Welcome to Authentic, where real stories meet real hearts. This is your sanctuary, a space for truth, transformation, and tender conversations. Here, we unmask the pressure to perform and lean into who we really are. Whether you're searching, healing, or rising, we see you. You are allowed to look good, feel good, and leave this space feeling bold. So, take a breath, be still, and come home to you. This is Authentic. We were born into stories that started long before us, but we get to choose how they continue. What generational patterns ends with me? And what new legacy will I create? Generational cycles shape how we think, live, and love. But what happens if someone chooses to break these cycles and create a new legacy? Meet Paula Hurlock, an environmentalist, a social entrepreneur, and the founder of Wellness Experience Jamaica, a transformative platform that brings people together to reconnect with nature, nurture their well-beings, and embrace conscious living. With years of working in community building and personal development, Paula has dedicated her life to helping others with intentional healing from past traumas and step boldly into their truest selves. Her journey bridges environmental awareness and human transformation, showing us that healing the planet begins with healing ourselves. In this episode of Authentic, we explore Paula's own journey of breaking generational cycles, the resilience it takes to challenge the inherited beliefs, and the beauty of creating a future built on love, freedom, and truth. This is Breaking Generational Cycles with Paula Hurlock. Welcome to Authentic. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Authentic. I'm your host, Rayon, and as always, true authenticity can never be replicated. Welcome to Authentic, the show that speaks about love, power of authenticity, taking one incremental step at a time. Healing is a process, and healing is an ongoing journey. And I encourage you to start your healing journey today. So today in this episode, we are tackling on the topic of breaking generational cycles. I have my lovely guest with me. I'm really excited for her to join us all the way from Jamaica. Well, not that far, but all the way from Jamaica. It really hits home for me. So this is really a special interview. Welcome, the one and only Paula Hurlock. Paula, welcome to the show.
Hi, Rayon. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing fine. Thank you. Even better now that you're here.
Wonderful, wonderful. And thank you so much for having me. And Rayon, I just want to, commend you for this wonderful initiative that you've taken to put this podcast together.
Thank you.
As a young person, it's a wonderful, it's a step. So, commendation.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for agreeing to come on the show. And as I explained to you before, the backstory of how I discovered your videos and your contents in high school, it's a full circle moment for me. So this one really hit home. And I think it's a really important topic, especially in the Caribbean, that we don't talk about. And I think the first step of healing yourself is also understanding where you're coming from and where some of these habits start from. And we're better than your bloodline, your lineage. So that's something what we've been talking about. So before we dive into the interview, the first question that comes to mind is, who is Paula Hurlock?
Oh, Paula Hurlock is primarily a Jamaican. That's the first thing she is.
See, I don't have a flag. I would have waved the flag.
Exactly, because we don't even have any Jamaican colors anywhere. But you know what? When we talk, everybody knows what's up. So we don't need a flag when we have our voice, right?
That
But
is correct.
I'm a Jamaican and I'm a geologist. I work in the environment for years. You know something? The pandemic really
Mm,
brought side of me that I didn't even know existed. The side of me advocates that
mm,
share information that can help people to understand why they are going through what they're going through, why the world is the way it is, how you can take certain action with the information that you have to make ourselves better and to make the world a better place.
that's beautiful. That is wonderful. I have such a similar story to you as you as well in terms of as a lot of people say you're really young, for you to really be thinking in this way and taking on this mantle and taking on the journey. It's also something that I was triggered to do, and I think when your soul aligns with it, it the intentional it just flows. So I the path that has least resistance is always the best path to tread.
That's it. That is it. Absolutely.
So, leading on to my first question, which is understanding the concept of generational cycles. What exactly are generational cycles and how do they differ from learned behavior or habits?
Okay, so generational cycles are cycles or patterns that come down the bloodline. In other words, they're passed on genetically, they're passed on
Mm,
traits, and they're usually traits of behaviors. But for some reason, we are now able to even pick up traits in traumas that are done. The blood. So, for example, one of the most common traumas that people inherit, passing down the bloodline, is the mother wound and the father wound. And it is the wound and father wound are about dysfunctions in terms of relationship with the parents and their children. And of course, if you are raised in a certain way, when it's your turn to rear children, you're going to use the same tools that your mother used,
mm,
and you're going to use the same tools that your father used. And if you didn't grow up with a father, then you're automatically going to find one similar to the one that you thought your mother found, which was an absentee father. You understand what I'm saying? So the patterns of behavior, patterns of dysfunction, the
mm.
patterns of selection, the patterns of discernment or thereof, patterns of, let us say, discipline or thereof, all of those will come straight through. Now they come in spite of momentum because they're in the bloodline, right?
Correct.
One great example that I know everybody can relate to is addiction, for example. There are some people that are just from a family that are addicted to alcohol. So the
Correct.
grandfather drinks alcohol, his son drinks alcohol, and his grandson drinks alcohol. And it continues on until one person has the awareness that this is a pattern and it's probably running down the bloodline. They are absolutely adamant that they are not going to continue. And there and then they break the cycle. Yeah. So a lot of what we see in this world as rage and anxiety and depression and dysfunction that affect many of the young people around have to do with the mother wound or the father wound. Yeah, the mother or the father wound is an attachment trauma that creates a sense of confusion and devastation in the mental state. Yeah, it instills deeply rooted beliefs. It's beliefs, that's what happens where you grow up believing you are alone or abandoned or ignored or even fearful. And if you grew up seeing those behaviors in your mother or father, best believe you're going to inherit those behaviors and continue to live your life displaying those kinds of traits or characteristics or behaviors. So these behaviors are passed down, and it also includes some guilt, some shame, and pain that are passed down the bloodline from mother to children or from father to children. And it creates societal stereotypes until the cycle breaker comes up and says, no, I don't like this, I will not participate. And I think that's where we are now.
It's funny that you said that because I had the same conversation yesterday in a previous interview talking about breaking the generational cycles and also making the conscious choice of saying, hey, it stops with me. We have to
That's
take another trajectory of what's going on. And it takes that self awareness. And also, it's a lonely road. You
it
have to
is.
be brave enough to take up the mantle and decide that, hey, we're not doing this. Consider myself as one of those change makers.
That's it.
So it leads me into my other question, which is, what are some of the most common patterns or traumas within the Caribbean community, from your
Oh,
perspective?
there's a huge, so definitely the mother and father wound, huge and terrible, very prevalent. Every single dysfunction that we can see in a person has to do with the mother and father wound. Then next to that comes the adverse childhood experiences, which have to do with traumatic experiences that a child has when they're in their formative years, usually between 0 and maybe 10, 11 years old. Maybe a little older, maybe up to 14 years old. But these traumas, when they happen, they scar the person emotionally or mentally for life. And it usually bears out in behaviors that are less than an ideal when they become adults, and even leads to illnesses. A lot of the diabetes and the hypertension and cancers that we see today among people that are between 40 and 60 years old have a strong foundation in adverse childhood experiences. I bet you didn't know that. Yeah, so that's a serious thing. And the third set of generational um, issues have to do with sexual abuse, sexual and physical abuse, right? Primarily among female children, but more often than not, it's starting to show up among the male children. And a lot of the deviant behaviors and decisions that some young men are making today have their roots in sexual abuse that they suffered when they were very young.
Wow. That is that is very insightful. My mind is blown. I think
Yes.
some of that. Oh yes, definitely. There's a whole, and I knew that that was going to be one of the things when we start to unpack this specific topic, because I know it's very deep, and I know, as you said, it's within the lineage, and it trickles down from the one person to the other person, and it stems really from deep inherited wounds that we have to address.
Absolutely.
Um,
The, the, the main thing with these wounds that are inflicted is that if they're not addressed, if they're just swallowed and left to fester, they do result in illness. There's a lot of bitterness and resentment and anger that is held in the body. It doesn't go anywhere. It's held in the body. Yeah. Sometimes, in Jamaica, you know how there's a joke in Jamaica. When you
mhm.
go customer service in Jamaica, it's always horrible. The people are so impolite. It's because of the traumas that they endured coming up through life. They can't even be happy or joyful or pleasant because they experienced a life where there was nothing joyful or pleasant about
Yeah,
them. Yeah. So
I hear that a lot.
yes, when we come across people that are unhealthy and we want to get upset with them, we need to have a little compassion and empathy and understand that they are going through things that we cannot even understand. You know what I mean?
I agree with you. I it's just funny that all the topics that we're talking about kind of collides with what I spoke about yesterday. I said we need to learn to listen with our hearts and less of uh um
Or
uh,
mind.
visual. Yes, we need to
Yes.
learn to listen with our hearts, and I commonly say it's very easy for you to understand someone when you understand your own humanity, because you're
Mm,
now able to accept your pluses and your minuses, and you know you're imperfect, and you know the experiences. So when you see someone, projecting in a certain type of way, it must be coming from somewhere. But sometimes,
absolutely.
we live in this world where it's like, just a hostile mentality. I think people sometimes are so distracted by other
Yes.
things. It's very hard to, stop and, ask.
Simple question, but so powerful. About someone's day, being seen and feeling heard.
That's a deep
Right?
one.
Yes.
That's a deep one. I think we tend not to listen these days. It's either to judge versus to actually listen, and
Mm-hmm.
actually listen with compassion.
Yes. Yes.
So, leading me to my next question, we know what generational cycles are. We know where they come from, or where the basis of where they're established. My next
Mm-hmm.
question to you is, what is the key step someone could take when it comes on to breaking generational cycles?
I think the most important thing is to feel and acknowledge what is happening, right? People, before they realize that it's a generation cycle, they just feel discomfort. They feel unhappiness, grief, sadness. They feel inadequate. They feel unloved. Their self-worth is below the ground. They just
Mm,
can't how they're living a life that's so miserable and unhappy, and everybody else seems happy. Yeah. So the first thing is to feel into what you're experiencing, knowledge of being unnatural. The
mm,
minute you challenge it, then you realize, okay, this is not natural, and I don't see everybody else in personal anguish as I am. Why is this happening? When they first acknowledge that it's happening, then they can start doing the look. Is this something that I observed my mother also going through? Are all my sisters also going through this emotional or mental anguish? And if the answer is yes, then you know that it's challenging. Right? So I'm going to give some examples. There are families that every single one of them, 3 generations back, got pregnant at 13. Every
Oh.
one of them, yeah, or 15 years old. There are some families that every single body in the family got raped at some stage. Yeah, they didn't mention it to anyone, and it just keeps repeating generation after generation after generation. There are some families where all the women end up with men that abuse them, that beat them. Yeah, everybody get beaten, and it's so commonplace that everybody accepts that this is how it is in a family until one child will come along and say, daddy beating mommy all the time. That now happened to me. I am never going to find anyone that is going to lay hands on me. And that is the one that breaks the cycle, right? Now, you see the instances of rape, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Um, most of the family members never reveal things happen. But there is an imprint of vulnerability in
Um,
all, and predators will always be able to pick up the victimhood
mm,
part of a victim. They will see 10 women and they'll be able to zero in and say that's the victim. Even if their personality is brash and sassy and they look brave and bold, they will still know in sense one is the victim. So what essentially has been carried down through the generation is not even the the sexual assault as it is the victim persona that
victim
is
person.
yeah. So what is important is that the one who realizes that the victim persona, that's the cycle you have to break. Yeah. Sometimes it could be even bullying. You see,
Hmm.
bullies come down the bloodline as well. And the bullied also comes down the bloodline. And when someone is bullied, if you check, they're bullied at home, they go to school, they get bullied at school, they grow up and they go to work and they get bullied in their offices as well. So it's a very interesting thing. So some of this generational cycle is learned behavior. Most of it is genetic imprints or what we call epigenetics, where a
Mhm.
trauma is marked in the DNA. The DNA is altered and then it's passed on the bloodline. And then there is, so that's nature. And then there is nurture, where an environment is created and you are in the environment, you become a product of that environment. And so the things that your grandmother did, then your mother does. And then the things that your mother did, you also do. Yeah. So some people are worriers. Yeah. Their grandmother
Correct.
worried a lot, and their mother worried a lot. So if you grew up in the house with your mother and your grandmother worrying a lot, what are you gonna do? You're gonna worry a lot too, and then you're
They're
gonna
gonna
pass,
have.
right? So when someone worries a lot, their ability to cope in situations of high stress are diminished, and so we're going to always look stressed and be stressed by very small things. You see? So the cycle breaker now will say, listen, grandmother was always scared, mom was always scared. I'm not going to live my life in fear. They're going to be both or do things to bolster their self their self confidence and so on. So it really is a matter of taking certain decisions
Mm-hmm.
and deciding I am going to shift this way and this will not happen to me. Make decisions that are calculated, intentional.
Intentional. I,
Yes.
intentional. I do agree. So for the persons, and I know, as you said, as you explained, it takes intentionality. And
Yes.
I always say to people, healing is work. It takes work. It's not a one day everything's done. Oh God, I'm healed. I'm amazed. No, it's
Yes.
a one step forward, one step backward, one step side, one step forward. Like, but you have to be consistent and you have to be
Yes.
committed to it. So for those
Absolutely.
people who might be saying, "Oh well, this is probably just a little bit too hard. I cannot be bothered. Like, I'm never gonna be healed." What would you say to those people?
I would say no, you can't take a decision like that. The important thing is, you space for your healing. It's
Mm,
important, A, to acknowledge pain, B, to reclaim your self-worth. Build a strong sense of self-esteem through therapy, through affirmations, through self-compassion. C, setting healthy boundaries. I don't know, I should have probably put setting healthy boundaries at the very top of the list because a lot of the issues that people have are because their boundaries are too weak and they allow to treat them in a certain way, speak to them in a certain way, address them in a certain way, disrespect